John and his friends walked along the forest trail. They heard a voice calling from behind them. Hey, guys, wait up! It was John's little sister, Lily. Max turned to John and said, "Does your annoying sister really have to come with us?" Penny hit Max on the arm and said, "Shut up, you're being rude." Max scoffed. "It's not rude if it's true." John decided he had enough of Max and aggressively told him, "Stop it." Once he did, Lily had finally caught up to them. Hey, what are you guys talking about?" John replied, "Nothing, Lily. Come on." The group arrived at their usual hideout. Max seemed annoyed because there were certain activities they couldn't do with Lily around. Sarah tugged on John's shoulder and asked, "Can we speak privately for a moment?" John said yes, and they moved to a more secluded area. "Why'd you get so upset at Max back there?" "I don't like him talking about my sister like that." "Well, he said awful things before. You know he can be a bit of a jerk sometimes." "Well, it's just that..." "What?" "Nothing. John, you can tell me." "Lily, she's staying with us because our mom is in the hospital. She got in a car wreck and we're not sure if she's going to make it." "John, I'm sorry. Do you want to talk about it?" "No, I just want to forget about it. Just for now." John's eyes began to water. Suddenly, Penny arrived with urgent news. John, we can't... we can't find Lily." John was stunned. What? "How do you lose a little girl?" John yelled at Max. "Well, I was distracted." John punched Max in the face. Penny got between them and said, "Stop it. Fighting won't bring Lily back." John looked at her and said, "You know, I'd expect Max to ignore my sister, but not you, Penny." Penny began to look guilty, as if this was all her fault and she knew it. Sarah cut in, saying, "Penny's right. If we want to find Lily, we have to look for her." John calmed himself down. Then he asked Penny, "Where was the last place you saw her?" She turned around and pointed between two trees. "Over there," she said. Well, she couldn't have gotten far. The group began wandering around the forest, calling out Lily's name. Eventually, they found a piece of ripped clothing on a tree branch. It was blue, with yellow flowers, just like Lily's jacket. "She must be close by," said John. The group crawled over a small hill and came to a large sewer pipe. The walls around it were covered in cracks, and the cracks were covered in moss. This place was abandoned. Penny asked, "Do you think she's in there?" "Maybe we should split up. We'll cover more ground that way," John said. "Penny and I will go in through here. Sarah, you and Max go around." "Hey, why am I going with Sarah?" "'Cause last time I left you alone with Penny, my sister ran away." "Who died and made you boss?" Sarah once again intervened. "Will you both shut up? Lily could be hurt. Let's just go with John's plan." "Fine," said Max. John and Penny entered through the front of the tunnel. The walls were nearly withered away. They used their phones as flashlights to illuminate the darkness. "I don't get it. Lily wouldn't just walk away like this," said John sadly. Penny turned to John and nervously began to speak. Hey John?" "Yeah?" "There's something I need to confess. What is it? You know how Max said he was distracted when Lily ran away? Penny, where is this going? Well, the reason we didn't see her leave was because, Max and I were, or we wanted to. Are you saying you stopped watching my sister because you and Max wanted to make out? Well, no, it wasn't like that. We didn't want her to see, so I asked her to stand somewhere else. This is all my fault. It would have never happened if I just said no. Calm down. We'll find her. Please don't tell Max I told you. Don't worry, I won't tell him a thing. Deep down, John still held some resentment towards Penny, but he knew it wouldn't help, so he buried it within. I still think it's weird for Lily to just get up and walk away like that. Then he suddenly stopped. Do you hear that? Hear what? Penny asked. John walked deeper into the tunnel while Penny followed behind. Then they came to a sudden stop. John couldn't believe it. Standing right in front of them, completely unharmed, was Lily. John hugged Lily and said, "Don't ever run off like that again." She seemed happy to be reunited with her brother, but that's when John noticed something odd. She had one hand held behind her back. "Lily, what are you holding?" She slowly pulled her arm out from behind her. On her hand was a small white sock puppet. It had two orange button eyes, a crudely drawn mouth with puffy cheeks, a purple dotted bow tie, and a black top hat. "His name is Lenny. I heard him calling for help, so I came down here to save him." John's relief was beginning to become concern. He told Lily, "Well, next time tell us before you go running off like that, okay? You could have gotten hurt." She looked down sadly, then said, "Well, can I at least keep Lenny?" John wasn't sure what to say. It was just a puppet, but he was somewhat creeped out by Lily saying she heard him calling for help. "Well, we don't know where he's been. I think you should put Lenny back where you found him." "But he needed my help." "I said no, Lily. Put it back." "But we can't just—" "I said put it back!" And that's when suddenly, out of nowhere, a voice rang out. It sounded high-pitched and friendly, almost like that of Elmo. "There's no need to worry. I'm friendly." John leaped back in fear. "What the hell is that thing?" he shouted. "Thing? I'm a puppet. Lenny T. puppet, to be exact." Out of adrenaline, John yanked the puppet off Lily's hand, then threw it on the ground. He grabbed her arm and ran the other way. Penny ran along beside them. John could faintly hear Lenny's voice from behind them. "That wasn't very nice. Don't you kids know the golden rule?" Then John heard what sounded like bones cracking, coming from the end of the tunnel. Once the three of them escaped the tunnel, they ran into Sarah and Max. At first they were happy to see Lily safe, but then they noticed the terror in everyone's faces. Sarah asked, "Wait, what's going on?" John yelled, "No time to explain, just run!" She turned around and saw something emerging from the tunnel. It was a tall and skinny creature. Its skin was covered in lacerations and burn marks, and on its hand was Lenny T. Puppet. Her eyes widened, then she turned around and ran off with the others. Eventually, the group came to their usual hideout. John looked behind them to see if the creature was still following. The coast seemed clear. He took the opportunity to explain what happened. Penny began to sob in regret. Oh, this is all my fault. If I had just paid more attention to Lily, none of this would have ever happened. John reassured her, telling her that this is all our faults. He wasn't sure if he really believed that, but he wanted to make her feel better, and it seemed to work. Max was getting impatient. Why are we just waiting around here for that thing to come back and kill us? John angrily shouted back, well, maybe this wouldn't have happened if you hadn't. He stopped. He realized what he was about to say. Hadn't what? Max said. I thought you said this was all our faults. What did Penny tell you? Sarah looked around at everyone. What's going on? Penny was now paler than a ghost. The forest was plagued by a tense silence. Look at the little children argue, just like Mommy and Daddy. Don't they grow up fast? Everyone jumped in fear. They looked around trying to find the source of the voice. John noticed the tall creature hiding behind a tree. It seemed to blend in. Its body was almost ghastly in the light. It didn't even cast a shadow. The creature held out Lenny, and he said, who here wants old Lenny T. Puppet to cheer them up? It swiftly grabbed Penny by the arm and lifted her up. You seem to be having a bad day. But don't worry, it'll all be over soon. The creature opened its mouth and lowered its head. It viciously bit into Penny's shoulder. Blood spewed everywhere. It tore off a chunk of flesh, then spat it on the ground. Then it bit into her again. Lenny laughed while Penny shrieked in horrid pain. Lily was paralyzed by fear. John had to pick her up and carry her on his back. Everyone escaped while Lenny was distracted with his feast. The sun was beginning to set, and the skies grew darker. He killed her. He killed Penny, Max cried. Lily's skin was pale and sickly. She quietly muttered, I don't feel so good. I want to go home. John tried to calm her down. Don't worry, we're going to get out of this. Then he told Sarah and Max, come on, we can hide at my place. Max didn't like that idea. Oh no, no way, I'm out. He turned around and ran away. Max, wait! John called after him. Sarah placed her hand on John's shoulder. Let him go. He's just scared. John replied, I know. Come on, we gotta go before it gets dark. Max questioned his sanity as he walked down the sidewalk. He kept repeating to himself, this can't be real, this can't be real. Then he noticed something off in the distance. It looked like Penny. Her back was turned, as if she knew he was there and didn't want to be seen. Penny? Penny, is that you? Answer me. Max wondered if what he was seeing was real, or if he had simply gone insane. He moved closer and closer to what he thought was Penny. He truly wanted to believe she was still alive. Max nervously reached forward. Penny? It's me, Max. Your boyfriend? Her head twisted on backwards. Her skin was a white, almost chalk-like substance. Her arm shot up and wrapped around his neck. Max struggled against the strange creature. It opened its mouth and bent its head back. A long red tentacle slithered out of its throat. Sitting at the very top was Lenny. The tentacle bent down, putting Lenny closer to Max's horrified face. The puppet said, "Life lesson number 1. Follow your heart." His voice quickly became sinister. "And you'll always end up breaking it." He grew dozens of razor-sharp fangs. His mouth enlarged, and he swallowed Max whole. John, Lily, and Sarah arrived at the house. Lily went to the bathroom to vomit. While she did, John and Sarah reflected on things. "I almost can't believe it. Penny's gone," Sarah said. "I've been friends with her since 3rd grade and now she's..." "I can't believe it either, but it happened. You know, Sarah, you don't have to be here if you don't want to." "No, it's okay. You and Lily are going through enough right now. I want to be there to help. And honestly, I don't want to be alone after all that." "It's okay. I understand." John? Yes, Sarah? What are we gonna do if that thing comes back? I... I don't know. This might sound a bit random, but what happened back there with Penny and Max? I think they were in a relationship. They didn't want Lily to know, and they ended up letting her get away. But really, this was all my fault. I was supposed to keep an eye on my sister, not them. John, you had no way of knowing this would happen. Then Lily walked into the room and said, John, I feel kinda hungry." He said to her, "Okay, I'll look for something." He went into the kitchen and opened the pantry. There wasn't much inside, except for one lonely apple. John took the apple and gave it to his sister. She began to bite off tiny chunks of it. That's when John noticed something odd. He swiped the apple away and took a closer look. Its insides were moldy and rotten. The apple began to shake, and John dropped it to the floor. Several yellow spider legs sprouted from its surface. He lifted it up, and it crawled away. "What the hell was that thing?" Sarah cried out. "A delicious, nutritious snack," a disembodied voice echoed. A large white caterpillar crawled out of seemingly nowhere. It had big black eyes and yellow humanoid teeth, and Lenny sat upon one of its antennae. "I grew and picked it myself. I hope Lily liked it." John looked back at Lily. Her skin was pale again, except this time she was coughing. Black goo leaked from her eyes and mouth. Lily fell to her knees. John and Sarah rushed to help her up. John looked up at Lenny and shouted, "What did you do to her?" "I gave her some of my world-famous medicine. Lily's going to become more and more like me till there's no Lily left." John clenched his teeth in anger. "You'll pay for this, you maniac." Lenny grinned in mockery. "I've got one last place to visit. The most important person in your life, John." The long creature quickly slithered away, and just like that, Lenny was gone. "Most important? He's going after my mom." "Sarah, I need you to stay here with Lily. Make sure she's safe." "But John, I can't let you go alone." "Sarah, please, you have to stay with her. I can do this by myself." "Okay, fine," she agreed hesitantly. John urgently left the house and attempted to bike to the hospital. He began to notice shadows in the distance. More of Lenny's creatures began emerging from the darkness. All sorts of grotesque abominations surrounded him. They began to taunt John. You won't make it in time. Look at little Johnny trying to play hero. They deserve it anyway. But he didn't let it discourage him. He continued pedaling forward. He was determined to make sure Lenny wouldn't hurt anyone else ever again. In time, John arrived at the hospital. He pushed past everyone to make sure nothing would slow him down. Eventually, he found his mother's room. He rushed inside, only to find it completely empty. Then he heard laughter coming from behind him. John turned around and saw dozens of large red tentacles shooting towards him. He ducked down as they flew overhead. They covered the entire room, morphing it into a bizarre, intestine-like space. Lenny emerged. He was 10 times his size. He spoke, "Johnny, Johnny, Johnny." The fleshy walls opened, revealing Penny, Max, and John's mother wrapped in tentacles. Their skin was pale and gray, like corpses. Lenny spoke again. "You couldn't save them, Johnny boy." John fell to his knees, sobbing. "Why? Why me? Why you?" Lenny's eyes began to glow. They popped off his face and fire shot from his sockets. The fire spread across his body, melting his sock-like surface. Underneath was burnt, roasted flesh. By the end of the transformation, Lenny had become an enormous fleshy beast. His lips were lined with large, human-like teeth, and his high-pitched friendly voice was now a nasty screech. "I'm really getting tired of being asked that. Does there have to be a motive? Lenny, take your meds. Lenny, see a therapist. Lenny, you need help. There's nothing wrong with me. This is what I like to do. It's what I want to do. I can never stop being who I am, even if I really want to." It was then John saw an opportunity. It was a big risk, but there wasn't much else he could do. John spoke up. I know what it's like to feel angry, where all you want to do is punish those who wronged you. But being angry won't fix anything. All you can do is accept it and move on. Really? Are you saying you're willing to give me a second chance? John nodded and said, "Yes, I can forgive." A tentacle shot up, stabbing John in the chest, pinning him against the wall. John coughed out blood while Lenny laughed like a maniac. He shoved himself forward and said, "I'm almost surprised you fell for my little sob story. Do you honestly think a speech from some pathetic little mama's boy would be enough to make me give up my life's work?" John could feel his body going numb. He slowly closed his eyes, and soon it was all over. Lenny lifted up John's limp body and tore it in half. "That's enough of that," he said. He threw the two halves on the ground. "Dumb kid." He stared off for a moment. "Yeah, dumb kid." He thought to himself, that was just a sob story, right? Sarah sat beside Lily's body. It was too late. There was nothing she could do. Then the body rose and turned to her. Lily, you're. I'm sorry. I'm afraid Lily isn't home. In fact, she's packed up and left. Lily's eyes were completely blacked out, and Lenny spoke through her mouth. Are you here to kill me? No, my dear. If I want to kick things off, I'll need a crime scene. And no crime scene is complete without a witness. But I want to make sure you tell them what I want you to. Orange flames began to emanate from Lenny's eyes. The flames flew across the room and into Sarah's. She began bleeding from her ears, eyes, and mouth. She screamed and squirmed and eventually fell unconscious. And now I'm a little bit closer to finding Bradwurst. Hi, I'm Scruffy the Cat. Now, this episode is homage to the content of Liam Vickers. Click the link down below if you want to know more about him. Anyways, thanks for watching. Scruffy, you get into the mic again? I gotta go. Bye.